Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This week we're going to talk about hydration bladders and water bottles, the pros and cons of each, and which ones I choose. So stick around. Hopefully you learned something. Water on the trail is super important. So I'm going to show you the bottles and the bladders. Give you enough information that hopefully you try it out yourself, figure out what works best for you. The first thing we're going to talk about, hydration bladders. Let's get to it. Number one, hydration bladders make it easy for you to keep your pace and drink on the go. The hose is right here on your shoulder. You just keep on walking, bite down on the bite valve, and you are drinking water. Nice, quick, easy. Nobody knows you're doing it, and you just keep moving. It's very, very convenient, very easy, and it's one of the better ways to stay hydrated on the trail. Number two pro for hydration bladder is you can carry more water usually and a little more conveniently. So this right here is a 3-liter bag. Fill it right up. Obviously you have 3 liters of water. With these convenient little clips on the side here, you can actually hook some to the outside of your bag as well. So if you have to camel up and carry 5 or 6 liters of water because you're walking through a dry stretch of trail, hydration bladder is where it's at. You don't have to worry about fitting the water bottle into a pocket or something. Use these, they clip right to your bag pretty easily. And the third pro about using a hydration bladder is the way it sits in your pack. Because most modern packs have a hydration bladder sleeve, either on the inside of the pack or on the outside of the pack, it'll actually force the bladder to sit right in the middle of your shoulder blades, right down your spine. So regardless of how much water is in the pack, you will actually have a nice, well-balanced weight right on in your bag. Whereas if you're drinking out of one water bottle and not the other, it can end up getting a little tippy sometimes. You might not notice it on a longer trip just because you're carrying a lot of water and a lot of extra weight anyway, but on day trips where you're trying to move fast, that balance really helps, especially if you're scrambling up some sketchy parts of mountain summits. Balance is nice. It's definitely a good thing to have. Just like everything else in life, hydration bladders are not all rainbows and unicorns. There are a number of cons as well. So let's go over those. Let's face it, we're all just regular folks and we like to keep track of our money. Unfortunately, bladders can be pretty expensive. The 3-liter bladder that I have was about $35 or $40, and it came with the bladder, the hose, and the bite valve. Thankfully, I already had a pack that had a sleeve for the hydration bladder, so I didn't have to purchase that. But if you don't have a modern pack and you have no hydration bladder sleeve, then it ends up becoming a pain to carry the bladder. So if you don't have a modern pack, you may have to consider buying one of those as well, and that's another expense. The second downside to a bladder is the material it's made out of kind of gives it a funny taste. You do have to clean these things out really well when you first get it, and then after every trip. But if you don't clean it out really well, you get this like rubbery, vinyl-y taste for the water, and it's really bad. It really makes it so you don't want to drink the water anymore, which then you get into a dehydration issue. But yeah, the maintenance of these for cleaning purposes can be more difficult than with a bottle. You do have to open it up, clean it out, let it dry out so none of the bacteria or water molds or anything like that grow in here. But then you also have to clean out the hose and the bite valve. These are not great things to have to worry about. So in addition to buying this in the first place, they make a long hydration hose cleaning pipe thing. I don't know what it's called. It's flexible and it goes right into the tube, cleans it all out. But something you're going to have to purchase just to make sure that you're not mainlining bacteria right to your mouth. That would be gross. The third and final downside to having a bladder is the material it's made out of. This rubbery, vinyl-y plastic material is very susceptible to punctures, explosions, and just seam failures. It can leak everywhere and cause a huge mess. So you can have actually holes in the bag itself, holes in the hose, in the bite valve. It ends up becoming a disaster. And depending on where your bladder is stored in your bag, it could end up making all of your stuff wet, and you wouldn't even know. So yeah, the fact that these things can actually have devastating failures is probably the biggest con, in my opinion, to using a hydration bladder. So now that we've talked all about hydration bladders, let's talk water bottles. That's right, this simple, everyday water bottle. Well, you're probably wondering, what can you talk about for water bottles? I'll tell you, because when you're taking these on the trail, there's some things to consider. All right, just like hydration bladders, let's start out with the pros. And number one on my pro list is these are lightweight and durable. I mentioned one of the cons of bladders was that they could get a hole in them and drip everywhere, all of your stuff. That's significantly less likely with a water bottle. Now, you may have issues with the plastic water bottles, but Nalgene water bottles or hard plastic water bottles like this, it's highly unlikely. They're very durable. They can fall on the ground, roll around, nothing's gonna happen to them. So they're awesome. And you know, they are lightweight, so it's not really a big deal to carry two of these. Now, the second pro, in my opinion, is the fact that these are available everywhere, and they really are low cost. So if you did forget your water for some reason when you're going on a hike, you can stop at your local Stewie's or any other market and just pick up a couple of water bottles and be set for your entire trip. The fact that they are easily accessible and really inexpensive means that you'll never be in a situation where you can't get water prior to starting your trip. So I think that's a huge benefit. Now, with these Nalgenes, a little more difficult. You'd have to go to a store that actually sells Nalgenes. You can't just pick these up at your local gas station. But again, they are in most box stores, so you'll be able to find them locally. You don't have to order anything special online. So Nalgenes are a little more expensive, but they're equally as awesome in my opinion. The third benefit to having a water bottle over a bladder, you can see exactly how much water you've got left. The bladder being on your back and in your bag means you really don't have a good idea of how much water you have left before you have to filter. Bottle, you can just look. It's clear, it's see-through. Hey, look at that. I know exactly how much water I've got. And that can be a real benefit, especially if you're on a trail where you're getting near water now and you know that you're going to be maybe on a dry ridge and there's not going to be an option for water for another couple miles. So having the ability to see exactly how much water's left, that's a huge benefit in my opinion. And one of the big reasons why I choose water bottles over bladders. But again, it's not always perfect with a water bottle, so there are some downsides to these as well. The first one may not be as important to many people, but I did find that when I started using water bottles, that the water actually warmed up quicker because the bottles are on the outside of the pack and exposed to the sun a little bit more. So that's kind of a huge bummer, especially when it's really hot out and you're trying to get a nice, cool, refreshing drink to kind of get yourself moving again. Warm water is really not great for that. It doesn't taste great. It doesn't actually refresh the way cold water does. So huge bummer when the sun warms up your water bottle because it's on the outside of your pack. I guess you just deal with that or filter fresh water, and it's nice and cold. But yeah, warm water is gross. So there's that. That's a big downside in my opinion. A second downside of water bottles is they can be incredibly difficult to reach when you're trying to go back and get one. A lot of times I've found that I just ask whoever I'm hiking with to help me out. That kind of stinks a little bit because it does slow the pace down. And if you're all by yourself, that means you got to take off your pack, put it on the ground, get your water bottle, take your drink, and then put everything back together. So if you're trying to maybe do a fastest known time or hit a lot of miles in one day, having a water bottle can slow you down, even if it's only just a little bit. because it's very difficult sometimes to reach behind you at that weird angle and get that water bottle out of your pack. Thankfully, I hike with some nice guys. They don't razz me too much about it, and they just hand me the bottle, and I take a drink, and they put it back, and life is good. But hey, it's definitely a downside in my opinion. And the third and final downside that I've experienced with water bottles is when they fall out of your pack. If there's a situation where you're climbing up at a weird angle, or you're bent over funny, maybe to tie your boots or shoes, whatever the case may be, the water bottles are not necessarily secured in the pockets of your pack, and they will sometimes come flying out. And depending on the terrain you're on, that could mean the water bottle rolls down the hill. And hopefully it's not going to be a far roll, but again, that's a huge bummer. You're going to have to go back down and get it unless you're with somebody who can bring it up to you. But I have had that happen a number of times. It's not great. I've had it happen when I was solo, especially, and thankfully a tree stopped the water bottle from rolling further down the hill, but I did have to go down like 15 feet to go get it. You know, these are things that you have to deal with, but that's a huge bummer for having water bottles instead of a hydration pack. So yeah, that's bladders versus bottles for me, man. I have spent years and years trying both of them. I think probably for the first 2 years of my hiking, I used water bladders exclusively. They seemed to be very cool and work out really well for me, but I would say over the last few years, I've switched over to water bottles 100%, and that's just because they are more convenient. One of the big things that I've noticed, like I said earlier, you can tell how much water you have left. It's very important for me. I do enjoy drinking a whole lot of water on the trail, so it's nice to know when I have to filter before it's too late. I hope the video was enjoyable and informative. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below kind of telling me what your choice is. Do you take the water bladder on the trail, or do you take a water bottle? And why do you do it? If you like these kind of videos and adventure videos in general, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. We put out new content on a very regular basis, so if you subscribe and then hit that little bell, you'll get an email every single time a new video comes out. But most importantly, I really hope that I've inspired you to get outside and do something awesome. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.